This is Foodscaping Utah, and we're going to install some drip irrigation. So it's a beautiful day in April, and in this video we're going to show you converting our sprinkler irrigation to drip irrigation. We're going to show you how we install drip irrigation in raised beds and around fruit trees. And then we're going to talk about some general guidelines for watering with drip irrigation and for using timers. Before we take a look at converting our sprinkler irrigation to drip, a couple advantages of drip irrigation. The first being that by watering at the drip line, only at the root zone, you aren't getting the leaves wet. If you're growing fruit trees or tomatoes, for example, and you're spraying them with overhead irrigation, that can promote diseases. And then the second advantage is it's really efficient. You're saving a lot of water if you're using drip irrigation because you're not losing not near as much water to evaporation. So the first thing that you need to think about when installing drip irrigation is a water source. There's two ways to do it. One would be to go on a hose bib, just to have an adapter that goes from a hose bib. Instead of putting the hose on, you put a drip line. And to do that, there's many ways, but you can get a conversion or that screws right onto hose thread. So if you're going to do that and you want to put a timer on it, a couple different timers we've used. There's one like this that is made by Dig, and it's not bad. They tend to wear out after a year or two. And we've also had a little bit more success with this Orbit timer. One thing that's nice about this one in particular is it has a splitter built in, and then you can put different settings, different timing on the two sides. So in all of our sections in the front and the backyard, we have not only vegetable beds, but we also have perennial fruit trees and fruit bushes, and you want to have those on two different zones, two different timing setups, because fruit trees here in Utah, even in the heat of the summer, you really only want to water them once a week, and you want it to be a deep watering, a longer run time, only once a week. And then in the vegetable beds, in the heat of summer, in July, for example, we probably want to water every other day, and for a shorter amount of time, maybe about 45 minutes a run. It kind of depends on what your setup is. Let's take a look at converting our sprinklers to drip irrigation. So one thing that we got that's really nice to do that is this piece, which includes not only a pressure regulator. So you want to, for drip irrigation, you want a pressure regulator. This one's at 30 psi, it depends on your system. But this one is a pressure regulator and filter built in. A filter is really important for drip irrigation because you don't want the emitters to clog. If you get too much dirt or it's just not clean water, you'll tend to clog your emitters over time. Okay, so here's the valve box for the sprinkler irrigation, and the one on the left was here when we bought the house. And let's open it up. You can see it has two valves that have lines headed this direction, and the nice thing about it is the two valves control two different zones, but both in the area that we're irrigating now with drip. So one of those we'll use for fruit trees and perennials, perennial bushes, fruit bushes, and then the other we'll use for our raised beds. And then I added this sprinkler box on the right here to house our pressure regulator and filter. So here's the pressure regulator and filter, and I just cut the main line and put it in with and secured it with some hose clamps. And the nice thing about this is this irrigation line already runs over to where a lot closer to where our raised beds are. So they're already ran underground. So if we walk over here on the path, there was a sprinkler head right here, and so then we can just take the sprinkler head out and put the drip irrigation in. We'll show you how you do that now. As you can see, we got our sprinkler was here, and I dug out this already, and then we just unscrew it, pull this out again, and then for the drip line, there's a threaded piece that can be screwed right in. Sometimes, depending on how your sprinklers are, these ones, it's a female piece here, but you might have a male piece, and then you just do an adapter. But basically, you put that in, screw it in tight, and then you bring your main line in and just push it on. And then you're tapped in. Okay, so now that we got the drip irrigation connected where the sprinkler used to be, the drip line runs there. You can see it, and then it goes underneath the paths. And then I ran it up inside the box, and it connects to our raised bed right here. It also continues under the other path and goes to the next raised beds. When you're considering drip line, the way that we do it is this product. I really like this product. It's by a company called Netafim, and this is the main line. It's 1/2-inch main line, and that's how you're going to get to your raised beds. And then this is also what's going to go around wherever your perennials are, your fruit trees and your bushes and your grapevines, etc. And then this is you can see it's a little bit darker color. It's also a 1/2-inch main line, which keeps the pressure nice and high. But it has drip emitters already pre-drilled every 12 inches. This one, each emitter waters 0.9 gallons per hour, and they're every 12 inches. So the way that we're going to do ours is run these the length of our beds, but have them 12 inches apart. Depending on your configuration, you may want to do it differently. They make these that are only 6 inches apart, and then 12, and then 18, I think up to 24, depending on what you're watering. In our raised bed, since we're going to be cropping them pretty intensely, it's going to be a lot in there. We want a full grid and make sure that there aren't any areas that are drier than other areas. But really, when you're thinking about drip, what you need is water at the roots. So depending on your configuration, you might not need to do that. But with 12-inch spacing, and then the lines 12 inches apart, we should get really good coverage. Okay, so I just got the whole drip system installed, and we're going to show you a couple of things on this vegetable bed. One, we put a shutoff valve here right where it comes in case we want to cut off the water to this bed while we're watering others. And then notice this, the main line comes in right at the middle, and then that helps to keep even pressure throughout the bed. And then we just put the T's in the elbows, and it comes down. And since this is a 10-foot bed and the drip emitters are every 12 inches, notice that the line stops 6 inches short of the bed. So what I did is put, with the connectors here, have a drip emitter in them as well. Then at the end, we got the T's that come over, and instead of an elbow on this corner, I actually put a T so that we can shut it off like this with a simple figure 8. And then in the winter, when we want to drain it, we can drain it there. This is the lowest point of the bed, and that's it. It's all set up. Okay, so one more thing we're going to show you is how I usually like to do trees. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this, but the way I like to do it is put some emitters right on the main line. That's pretty easy. I already have 2 here, and then you can put another one. We'll put it right in the middle. With this tool, you simply poke a little hole in the line, and then this is a 1 gallon per hour emitter. We'll stick that in. And since this is a tree that we just planted a month ago in March, it's April now, these emitters are actually really close to the tree, but as the tree gets bigger, I left myself plenty of slack, and we'll just move the line further out as the roots expand. And then I can put a small 1/4-inch tube to add extra emitters as it gets bigger and it needs more water. Okay. So when you're first setting your drip irrigation system up, it's a good idea to run your system and run it for a couple different run times, especially if you're going to set up a timer. You want to see how deeply your system's watering and then get an idea for how you're going to set your timer. And to check the soil moisture, you can either dig a really small hole, or you can just use a really inexpensive moisture meter. In general, as a general guideline, we want to water deeply but less often. You can go ahead and let the surface area dry out. When you do that, it tells the plant to send its roots down deeper, and that'll give it more access to nutrients and more access to water, obviously. And it'll lead to an overall healthier plant. Thanks for watching Foodscaping Utah, and grow your own.